The first roar. It was supposed to be just another night in Beijing. The bustling city streets were alive with the sounds of honking horns, late-night markets, and the steady hum of people rushing to and from work. For Spider-Man, perched high atop the roof of a towering skyscraper, everything seemed calm. The city beneath him was a web of life, familiar and predictable. The wind tugged at his suit, and for a moment, Peter Parker allowed himself to enjoy the quiet. That is, until the first tremor hit. At first, it was barely perceptible. A small shift in the ground beneath his feet. Spider-Man tilted his head, his spider sense tingling. There was something off about the atmosphere tonight. His senses flared up, screaming at him. Danger! Big danger! He swung quickly to the edge of the building, his eyes scanning the skyline. The air grew thick, charged with an unnatural energy. The temperature dropped, sending a chill through the city as dark clouds gathered above. Something wasn't right. And then it happened. A roar. Deep, thunderous, the kind that rattled your bones. It echoed across the city, reverberating in the bones of every building, in the hearts of every citizen. It was a sound that sent panic through the streets, fear rising in the throats of the people below. Spider-Man's eyes widened as he stood on the edge of the building, peering into the distance. The ground beneath him shuddered again, this time stronger, a shockwave rippling outward. Buildings groaned, their foundations buckling. In the distance, something was rising. That's not normal, Peter muttered, his voice barely audible over the growing chaos. He swung into action, his web snapping out to latch onto nearby buildings. He had to see it for himself. What was going on? As he swung through the streets, his eyes locked onto the horizon. That's when he saw it, the first Titan. A massive silhouette emerged from the clouds. It was Colossal, its towering figure casting a shadow over the entire city. Spider-Man stopped mid-swing, staring at the creature in disbelief. The Titan was a hulking mass of stone and fire, its body glowing with molten energy. Its eyes burned like the sun, fierce and unyielding. Every step it took caused the ground to crack open, creating ripples of destruction. The Titan's roar shook the very foundation of the earth, and Spider-Man's heart skipped a beat. He had never seen anything like this. The city was falling apart around him. People screamed in terror as the Titan advanced, its gargantuan limbs sweeping away everything in its path. Spider-Man's webbing could only slow the inevitable. He was no match for something this massive. He had to act. Without wasting a second, Spider-Man shot out a web to swing toward the Titan. His mind raced. He needed information, anything to understand what this creature was and why it had appeared. There were no signs, no warning. It was as if it had just arrived. The military had already mobilized. Spider-Man saw jet fighters soar through the sky, their engines roaring as they approached the Titan. A few fired missiles, but the Titan didn't even flinch. The explosion seemed insignificant compared to its massive form. Another roar filled the air, and the city trembled under its weight. Spider-Man's eyes narrowed. It was time to step in. He landed on the Titan's leg, attempting to climb its stone-like surface. His hand struggled against the rough surface, but he managed to find a foothold. The Titan seemed unaware of him, its focus solely on its path of destruction. Spider-Man shot another web, this time trying to wrap it around the Titan's massive arm, hoping to slow it down. He barely had time to react before the Titan's arm swung violently, knocking Spider-Man off balance. He crashed into the side of a building, barely managing to cling to the wall to avoid falling. The force of the impact left him momentarily dazed. Okay, this is a little more than I bargained for, Peter muttered to himself, shaking his head to clear the dizziness. The Titan was unstoppable, but Spider-Man wasn't about to give up just yet. A sudden voice crackled through his comms, startling him. Spider-Man, we need you now. It was General Li, a high-ranking officer in the Chinese military. Spider-Man didn't hesitate. General Li, what's the plan? I need backup here, and fast. We're trying everything we can, but these creatures are immune to our weapons. We need your speed, your agility. We need you to hold them off until we figure out what we're up against. Spider-Man nodded, his eyes still locked on the advancing Titan. I'm on it. With a sense of urgency, Spider-Man sprang into action again, swinging toward the Titan. But this time, he noticed something else. There was more than one. More Titans were emerging from the distance, their monstrous forms growing larger as they closed in on the city. It was no longer just a single creature. It was an invasion. In the chaos, Spider-Man's thoughts raced. Why are they here? What do they want? And where did they come from? Before he could ponder further, the ground beneath him shook again. And this time, the military was beginning to fall back. Their weapons weren't working. The Titans were relentless. Spider-Man had to stop them. He had to find a way to slow them down long enough for the city to prepare. But what he didn't know was that the Titans' arrival was only the beginning. The real threat was yet to be revealed. As Spider-Man swung into action once again, a low, ominous rumble filled the air. A second roar, louder this time, echoed across the horizon. Spider-Man's heart sank. The true battle was about to begin, and he had no idea what he was about to face. Secrets beneath the surface. The Titans' footsteps left deep scars in the city's landscape. Buildings collapsed with the force of each step, and the once bustling streets were now crumbling beneath the weight of destruction. Spider-Man swung through the debris, trying to stay one step ahead of the colossal creature. But with every swing, he could feel the gap between them closing. The military had already mobilized, but their efforts seemed almost laughable against a foe of such immense power. Spider-Man had faced countless enemies, from mutants to alien invaders, but never anything like this. The Titans weren't like the usual threats he encountered. They weren't just mindless beasts. There was something deliberate about their movements. They were organized, their attack on Beijing clearly coordinated, and Spider-Man knew they had a purpose. But what? The air around him was thick with tension, crackling with energy. As he swung from building to building, he caught a glimpse of General Lee, barking orders into his comms while his soldiers tried to contain the situation. But Spider-Man wasn't focused on the military's attempt to contain the Titans. He was focused on something far more pressing, the behavior of the creatures. They weren't just destroying, they were searching. Spider-Man, General Lee's voice crackled through his earpiece. We found something. The Titans are moving toward a specific location. They are heading toward the city center. It's not random. We need you to investigate. Fast. Spider-Man's heart raced. The Titans weren't just here for destruction. They were after something. But what? And why the city center? He swung through the air, barely dodging debris as he zipped between collapsing buildings. The military jets zoomed above him, firing missiles and machine guns at the Titans, but their attacks were ineffective. The Titans barely acknowledged the assault, continuing their relentless march forward. As Spider-Man neared the heart of the city, he saw something that made his pulse quicken. The ground had cracked open, revealing an enormous underground structure. Something ancient, hidden beneath layers of rubble and concrete. It was unlike anything Spider-Man had ever seen before. A vast network of metal and stone, built long before modern architecture had taken form. The Titans were heading straight for it. Spider-Man dropped down onto a nearby rooftop, using his webbing to cling to the side of the building. He had to get inside. The Titans were clearly drawn to whatever lay beneath the surface. He needed to know what it was, and more importantly, why it was so important. He swung down into the cracked earth, landing with a soft thud in front of the opening. The air was heavy with anticipation. The underground structure loomed before him, the walls adorned with strange symbols and intricate carvings, long faded by time. The energy radiating from it felt wrong, like the earth itself was alive, calling out. As he stepped closer, his spider sense fled again, warning him of an unseen danger. He hesitated, scanning the area for any signs of movement. But there was nothing. The entrance was eerily quiet, as if waiting for something. Just then, a rumble echoed from deep within the earth. The Titans had arrived. Spider-Man watched as they gathered around the entrance, their massive bodies towering above the structure. They weren't attacking anymore. They were waiting, as though something was about to happen. The ground beneath them vibrated again, this time more violently, and Spider-Man could feel the air growing heavier. He tried to get a closer look at the underground entrance, but before he could, a bright light erupted from within. The Titans' eyes glowed brighter, their forms shifting as they seemed to grow more energized by the surge of power. And then, Spider-Man realized the truth. The Titans weren't just here for destruction. They were guardians. Guardians of something buried beneath the city. Something ancient. Something powerful. He had to get inside. But as he moved toward the entrance, he could feel a change in the air. The energy was growing more intense, and the earth itself seemed to be shifting. This wasn't just an ordinary underground facility. It was something far more dangerous. Whatever was buried here was not meant to be disturbed. Just as Spider-Man reached the edge of the entrance, the ground beneath him shook again. He stumbled, trying to maintain his balance, but the shockwave was too powerful. The Titans reacted, their roars deafening as they stepped forward, blocking the path to the entrance. Spider-Man was trapped. His only choice was to fight, and fast. The Titans were relentless, but there was something else, something that tugged at his mind. What was it the Titans were guarding? What was hidden beneath this ancient city that could threaten the entire world? As the Titans began to move closer, Spider-Man launched himself into the air, dodging their massive limbs. The battle for the truth, and for humanity's survival, was about to begin. The final stand. The air was thick with tension. The ground beneath Beijing trembled, and the sky above seemed to be alive, pulsing with ominous energy. Spider-Man stood at the edge of the colossal underground structure, staring at the Titans who had now surrounded it. Their stone-like forms towered over him, their molten eyes glowing with an intensity that sent a chill down his spine. These creatures were not just here to destroy. They were guarding something, and Spider-Man could feel it deep in his bones. The Titans were moving with purpose now, marching toward the entrance of the underground structure, their immense bodies blocking his way. Each step they took sent shockwaves through the city, and the military jets that had been firing on them with no effect were retreating. The Titans were unstoppable, their strength unmatched by anything Earth had ever seen. Spider-Man's mind raced. What were they guarding? What could be so important that these giants would risk everything to protect it? He had to find out, and he had to stop them before it was too late. General Lee's voice crackled through his earpiece. Spider-Man, we've gathered all available forces. We're preparing to launch a final assault, but we need you to act fast. The Titans are almost at the entrance. We don't have much time. Spider-Man didn't respond. He didn't need to. The time for words was over. He couldn't rely on the military anymore. The Titans weren't just a threat to Beijing. They were a threat to the entire world. He swung forward, narrowly dodging a Titan's massive hand as it swung through the air. His spider sense screamed at him, and he twisted in mid-air, landing gracefully on the Titan's shoulder. From this vantage point, Spider-Man could see the entire battlefield. The military was regrouping, preparing for their final push, but they were outmatched. He needed to slow the Titans down, give the military one last chance to take action. As he darted toward the Titan's head, a blinding light erupted from the underground facility. The Titans paused, their massive forms quaking as the energy from the structure surged, reaching into the sky. Spider-Man's heart skipped a beat. This was it. This was the moment he had feared. Whatever was buried beneath the earth was waking up, and it was far more powerful than anyone had imagined. The ground beneath Spider-Man's feet shook violently, and he barely managed to stay on the Titan's shoulder. A deep, guttural sound reverberated from the earth as the Titans roared in unison, their eyes glowing brighter, their energy levels rising. They were becoming more powerful, more dangerous by the second. Spider-Man had only one chance. He shot his webbing, swinging through the air with all the speed he could muster. He reached the entrance of the underground structure just as a massive pulse of energy erupted from within. The door to the facility was open now, revealing a vast, glowing chamber below, the source of the Titan's power. But Spider-Man didn't have time to admire the spectacle. He dove in, his web shooting out to anchor him to the walls as the ground beneath him cracked open further. The energy from the facility intensified, and Spider-Man could feel it pulling him toward the center. In the heart of the chamber stood a device, a towering, pulsating object that seemed to hum with unimaginable power. Its surface was covered in ancient markings, glowing with the same molten energy as the Titans. The device was the source. It was the reason they were here, the reason the Titans had come to life. He was too late. The Titans were already advancing into the chamber, and there was no time left to stop them. The military had gathered at the facility's entrance, but their weapons were ineffective. The Titans were untouchable, too powerful for anything Earth could throw at them. Spider-Man's mind raced. What do I do? His eyes flicked to the device, and in that moment, a revelation hit him. The Titans weren't just guardians, they were part of the system. The device, the Titans, and the energy beneath the Earth were all connected. They were one. If Spider-Man could disable the device, he could stop the Titans. He didn't have a choice. He had to destroy it. With all the strength he could muster, Spider-Man launched himself toward the device. He shot his webs, wrapping them around the glowing core, trying to disrupt its energy flow. But the moment he touched it, a violent shockwave of energy shot through his body, throwing him back into the chamber's walls. His head spun, and for a moment, everything went black. When Spider-Man came to, he was lying on the cold stone floor of the chamber. The Titans were moving again, their eyes narrowing as they advanced toward him. He couldn't stop now. He had to destroy the device. It was the only way. With a surge of determination, Spider-Man pushed himself up, ignoring the pain coursing through his body. He shot another web at the device, this time aiming for the weak point he had noticed earlier, a crack in the stone surrounding the core. His webs wrapped around it, and with one last burst of strength, he pulled. The device cracked open, sending a wave of energy flooding through the chamber. The Titans stopped, their forms flickering, their molten eyes dimming. The energy began to dissipate, and the Titans faltered, their massive forms crumbling into dust. The battle was over. The Titans had been defeated. But Spider-Man knew this was just the beginning. The power that had been awakened beneath the city was still out there, and there were forces far greater than the Titans that still lurked in the shadows. As Spider-Man stood amidst the ruins of the battlefield,